and welcome to Salem!
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're examining small towns in the United States that harbored disturbing secrets or histories.
It was 70% black and brown prisoners, all white guards. What could go wrong?
Obviously, these aren't entirely secrets anymore, but it regardless shouldn't be the kind of thing to be on a brochure. Sherman, Connecticut. Bob Gordon was a seemingly innocuous 71-year-old man living in this western Connecticut town. And then in 2016, state troopers arrested him.
His girlfriend of more than 20 years was stunned.
I said, "What? Are you sure? They have the wrong person?"
Turns out, Gordon was actually one Robert Stackowitz, who'd been on the lam for a whopping 48 years after escaping prison down in Georgia.
One day I left. It's kind of simple as that. Somebody gave me a ride to the Atlanta airport. I got on a plane and flew home.
Stackowitz had still roughly 15 years left on his sentence at the time, having been incarcerated for being the getaway driver in a burglary.
It was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life.
Both Connecticut and Georgia dropped their charges and extradition requests due to Stackowitz's ill health, and he died just 7 months after being discovered. Liberty Township and Independence Township, New Jersey.
We are on a road that's supposed to be one of the most haunted roads in all of New Jersey.
Folks in these New Jersey townships know to beware of Shades of Death Road. Yes, that's the real name of the road, which has inspired some fanciful legends, and some that are all too real.
The reason why this road is named Shades of Death is somewhat of a mystery. Allegedly, it was the site of highwaymen who would hide in the woods and rob people. Also, there was a series of murders that happened here.
Even before there were cars to drive on the road, it's said it was cursed by insects who nested nearby and annually spiked mortality rates with malaria. Then in the 20s and 30s, the road saw 3 murders, one of which saw a woman decapitate her husband and bury the head and body on opposite sides of the road. Then there's the wildcat attacks that were known to take place there. Sand Branch, Texas.
A place once home to hundreds only has dozens now.
Sand Branch is actually an unincorporated community in Dallas County, Texas. Yet despite being so close to a major US city, this town is completely without one of life's most everyday amenities, running water. But wait, it gets worse. Sand Branch literally exists next to a wastewater treatment facility, yet can't get access because it has absolutely no infrastructure to convey the water. But wait, it gets worse. This incredibly poor community of mostly African American residents has to rely on directly transportable water, much of which they acquire through donations.
The Texas Water Development Board approved $450,000 for the town's water and wastewater projects in August 2020. But the money is a trickle of what the town needs to fully fund running water and sewage.
It would seem that some officials would rather look the other way when it comes to the people of Sand Branch.
We would just like to see running water. We would like to have a quality of life that makes sense to any American, any Dallas County citizen, any citizen in any city around here.
Freetown, Massachusetts. In 1978, Mary Lou Arruda was a teen cheerleader before she went missing while cycling. Her body was found 9 weeks later, and a man named James Cater was eventually arrested on suspicion of murder. Cater had already been incarcerated for an attempted murder 10 years earlier of a very similar variety. Cater continued to acknowledge his guilt in the previous crime, but maintained his innocence regarding Arruda. Through circumstantial yet damning evidence, Cater was eventually convicted after many retrials. However, the area would still be plagued by unsolved murders in the late 80s at the work of the New Bedford highway killer.
Investigators who worked on this case say with little physical evidence and no video, the best chance of solving this case will likely come down to a tip.
Skidmore, Missouri. Ken McElroy was none too popular in the farming community of Skidmore, Missouri. McElroy was indicted 21 times, but escaped conviction all but once. And he was accused of pretty much everything you can think of.
Ken McElroy terrorized the town of Skidmore, Missouri for more than 10 years. The locals called him Bad Dog.
In 1981, shortly after townsfolk had a meeting about how to handle McElroy, the man was shot twice in broad daylight. Despite there being as many as 46 witnesses, not a single suspect was identified.
Nobody in the town would even give a name.
It's been speculated that the witnesses saw it as a public service and thus protected the perpetrator's identity. To this day, no one has been charged with McElroy's death.
Horror and mayhem have visited that town over and over and over again.
Ashtabula, Ohio. Back in 1876, there was a bridge spanning the Ashtabula River in the namesake Ohio town. But on the night of December 29th, an unthinkable disaster struck.
Rolling over miles of snow-covered track, the Pacific Express No. 5 plowed through a raging blizzard, trudging almost reluctantly towards its next stop, Ashtabula, Ohio, where a bridge held dark secrets.
As the Pacific Express passed over, the bridge collapsed. Only the lead car made it to the other side. The others plunged into the river below.
The sound of the wreck could be heard half a mile away as rail cars flipped and tumbled and landed on top of each other.
Despite the water, a fire broke out when the passenger train's oil lanterns met the coal fire heating stoves. Many who survived the fall perished in the flames. In total, 92 of the 160 aboard died that night.
The people of Ashtabula buried the still unidentified remains, the unknown victims of what papers at the time called the Ashtabula Horror.
Attica, New York. If there's one thing Attica, New York is known for, it's the correctional facility of the same name. By all accounts, the maximum security prison has housed some of the most notorious criminals in history, such as David Berkowitz and Mark David Chapman. But the environment there reportedly isn't much better.
People still debate what really happened inside the walls of the Attica Correctional Facility, scene of the bloodiest inmate uprising in American history.
In 1971, inmates took control of the compound in an effort to negotiate better conditions. The state eventually responded with force, leading to the deaths of 43, including 9 hostages. Today, the word Attica has endured in popular culture in reference to people seeking better treatment.
Attica! 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 Attica!
Burke, Idaho. Within just a few short years after the town's founding in 1887, Burke, Idaho was devastated by an avalanche and a labor strike. Tensions between miners and the owners got so bad that a shootout occurred, inadvertently setting off dynamite and exploding a mill, killing 6 in the process. Martial law restored peace, but more misfortune was to come. In 1889, disgruntled miners deliberately blew up a mill, killing even more. Couple that with 2 devastating fires, a flood, and another avalanche, and we can see why Burke is a ghost town today. Centralia, Pennsylvania.
It all began back in May 1962, when local officials unwittingly sparked an underground fire. A fire that would make the town uninhabitable.
Speaking of fires and ghost towns, Centralia, Pennsylvania has Burke beat by a long shot. That's because the Centralia mine fire has been burning since at least 1962. Yeah, has been, as in is still burning.
The large network of abandoned coal tunnels supplied the fire with oxygen, fueling the blaze, and the high-density coal lying beneath the town made matters worse.
It's been disputed exactly how the fire started, but at some point, the abandoned underground coal mines were exposed to flame. After cleanup attempts failed and the conditions above ground worsened, residents were slowly forced to vacate.
The government offered residents a substantial cash sum to leave.
At one point, Centralia had a population of over 2,700. As of the 2020 census, it had 5. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Salem, Massachusetts. In what is surely common knowledge today, late 17th century Salem, Massachusetts saw a level of mass hysteria heretofore unheard of, whereby hundreds of people were accused of witchcraft.
I am innocent to a witch. I know not what a witch is.
If you know not what a witch is, how do you know you are not one?
The motives for the claims are now known to be dubious. but the populace was largely unable to detect falsehoods due to fear and religious extremism. Upwards of 25 people died, many of whom were executed, despite obviously not being actual witches.
Increase Mather famously said following the Salem witch trials, "It were better that 10 suspected witches should escape than one innocent person be condemned."
Whether to embrace its witchy history or suppress it remains a subject of debate in Salem to this day.
Busy like Salem, which shows no signs of slowing down.
Are there any other small town secrets you know about? Let us know in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.